I'll call the meeting to order and reference Metro Ordinance 2.68.030, Metro Code of Laws. All actions by this board are appealable to the Chancery Court of Davidson County. I will entertain a motion as set forth in the in your agenda to meet by electronic means and suspend the rules. I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. No public comment. I will defer my comments. We have the minutes in the in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion. Second.
Katie, second.
Joyce, motion. Katie, seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Katie Zell, so happy to have you with us. Congratulations on being appointed to one of the real plum boards of Metro government.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you all. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to have you.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting time to be on this board. It's an interesting time to be on any board for that matter. You know, a lot to work through, but it's a good group. It really is. It's been very enjoyable, and you know all that. So welcome. All right. We now, since Lucy was not reappointed, we now have a vacancy in the chair of vice chair. And I would entertain nominations for vice chair to replace Lucy.
How about Joyce?
That'd be fine. I hadn't thought about it. That'd be fine.
All right. So
All right.
me, anybody else? We'll have a big competitive election here.
Yeah. I'll second Joyce.
All right. All right. Joyce, do I hear a motion that we elect Joyce by acclamation?
So
All right.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I'll turn it over to Kent. And one thing I was thinking about, Kent, as you go through yours.
Excuse me, Keith, could you hold on a second? Kent's having trouble with his computer, so he's going to come into my office.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
Are we ready?
I'm trying to be. No, I can see you guys, but I can't hear you on my computer. I do not know why.
All right.
So
So we are now down to your report, Kent. Are we ready to go?
okay, it's good to know. And I may not have grabbed all my stuff here. I just came into Bernie's office.
All right. Well, take your time. We've got plenty of time.
Okay. I guess the main things I just kind of wanted to hit in the general report were that we keep massaging the data that we're providing and trying to give you what we think are the most meaningful things, since things have kind of flipped around. Probably the most significant ones are looking at those e-contacts and understanding how we're doing that. So we've got some good numbers there. When it comes overall, the circulation trends are down, and that's to be expected since we were just doing eCert for the first 3 months. But I think the thing that's really exciting, again, is you continue to look at page 10, which is where the virtual programming data is. It gives you a pretty nice breakdown of where our programming is. So that's worth looking at. The other piece that I mentioned is that in my written report is the Church Street Park and what's going on with that. Keith, you've been involved with those discussions, but the foundation involved with the Capitol Hill corridor is donating about $460,000 to Metro, and that grant has been accepted. And over the next few months, they're going to do a renovation of the park that will include landscaping and a number of other things, including programming. They hope for us to be a part of that. And a big piece of that, if they can pull it together, it's going to be some kind of event around the 19th Amendment anniversary and suffrage in August. So that's something to look for. It kind of came at us out of left field, but we're ramping up and trying to engage in it.
So it'll be an outdoor event in the park?
Right. Hi, Robert.
Hi.
Right, it's some kind of outdoor event in the park. So,
But it would not take the place, Katie, I guess I'm really talking to you now. It would not take the place of the whatever we were already planning to do, right?
That is correct. Although what we were already planning to do was, it had moved to a virtual opening anyway. So, the general plans are to have the bells across. Well, let me go back for just 1 second. When this passed 100 years ago, bells all over the country and cities all over the country rang. They never rang in Nashville because it was feared that it would be too controversial and that there may be a riot or whatever. So the bells never rang here. So our plan is to put together an effort that will have the bells rung at the same time, probably 1 o'clock, but that is not completely confirmed yet, all over Nashville. And we are launching on July 8th a social media campaign to urge people to do two things. One, post themselves ringing a bell and saying, I ring the bell for, and you can ring the bell for anything you want, for women voting, for Black Lives Matter, for eradicating hunger. You ring the bell and you post it on your own site. And we're doing that both in Nashville and nationally. And then you also commit that at a certain time on August the 18th, you will come outside of your house and ring a bell with all the other bells in Nashville. And so that part is virtual, whether we show it in the park or whether we just gather in the park and have some kind of, everybody look at your phone right now and see what's going on with the rest of the world joining us, and then the bells ring in Nashville.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
You talk about the universities ringing bells too, all of the Lipscomb and Belmont, the bells on the campus, just all over.
Yeah, it's every bell that we can.
Every bell.
Let every bell ring.
Katie, has anybody contacted you from from their foundation or from Dee Patel or Alexia Poe or Tom Ingram or anybody like that?
Yeah, kinda. Margaret and Jeannie have done a great job of keeping in touch with all the other organizations in town and all the things they want to do. I have not gotten a call from anybody that you just named, but I do know that they're doing fundraising for that foundation, and that's kind of what I've heard.
That those people whom I named are doing fundraising for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that call the other day, they had a calendar up of July and August of a lot of programming, some of which was going to be us, and I don't want them stealing our thunder as far as opening the room. On the other hand, I want to cooperate, but it just seemed like both Kent and me, this was just kind of coming out of the blue, and nobody had really known that we were part of their plans.
Well, I personally don't know it, although I think Margaret and Dee, or Jeannie and Dee, may have spoken.
Okay. Okay. Well, Jeannie and Dee ought to have a pretty tight relationship, I guess.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
I mean, it's very positive, but
Good. Okay. All right.
Okay. I'm talking through my mask because Bernie and I are sitting here together. Hopefully you can hear me. Try and talk louder. The only other thing I specifically wanted to mention was that in my written report, I talked about the different CARES grants that we were applying funding for funding. We've been pretty aggressive at going up every avenue that we can to obtain additional funding. The neat one that I mentioned is the Institute for Museum and Library Services grant. And we submitted that under a heading of We Are All Connected. And it is specifically going to address a number of programs that we have, including NASA, bringing books to life, other content pieces. And part of the technology piece that's in there, we've applied for Chromebook, hotspots, tablets, and flash drives, in addition to some staffing and a few other miscellaneous items. But that is really an effort to ramp that up and kind of, again, continue to support what the schools are trying to do.
Okay.
Okay. And that's really all I've got.
Do you have any sense of what the budget's going to look like at the end of today?
Which budget, Robert?
Metro budget.
Okay. Well, let me do my curbside report and then I'll get into the budget. That was just kind of my miscellaneous stuff there. With curbside, it's been incredibly successful. And the numbers that we pulled for the first week, we had over 4,000 unique patrons that took advantage of the service. We checked out almost 18,000 items, and we had 33,500 holds placed. So people were definitely waiting for us. As far as the process, it's going smoothly. It's everything they laid out in that detailed plan seems to be working. One of the things that we did change for a couple of reasons, we wanted to keep moving the books, and we weren't seeing any definitive evidence that quarantine for 5 days was any better than 3 days. So we're just quarantining the books for 3 days. And this is going to help us keep moving popular titles and also help with the space in the different branches where they're quarantining the items. You know, one of the things that crazy video, that curbside video, has literally gone viral. I just got an email this morning that it was in the New York Times newsletter and also in their technology section this weekend. So we continue to do these little one-offs that get a lot of notoriety around the country. And just in regard to what's going on within the buildings, I think our safety measures are working right now. Everybody seems to be adhering to them. Even like, for instance, when I come into this building in the morning, they take my temperature. We have plenty of soap around to wipe our hands and that sort of thing. And all the doors are open through here now. You know, you're used to having to be buzzed through and go through all the closed doors, for instance, at the main library and the staff area. And we had all those propped open so you're not even touching the doors. One of the things we are watching, and we talked about yesterday during our administrative meeting, was just how we are scheduling in order to maintain social distancing. I think that's going to continue to be our biggest challenge. The staff were just working like crazy and gangbusters those first few days. I think we knew it was going to be busy with the book drops and people returning books, but it was literally a landslide of books coming into those book drops. We probably could have used an assembly line or some kind of automated cart that's bringing everything out of the book drop. So I think overall it's been very successful. Are there any questions?
Well, Kent, can you remind us then what needs to be in place in order to go to phase 2?
We want to see the trend in new cases going down in general, and we'll queue a little bit off of phase 3 for Metro. But the other thing is we're still short of sanitation equipment as far as being able to wipe down tables and wipe down doors and that sort of thing. We have things on order, but we still don't believe we have enough to go into a sustained opening in any of our locations. And I can tell you personally, I'm most concerned as I look at these trend lines that Nashville is going back up. And one of the things I'd hate to see have happen is to open up for a couple of weeks and the trend line continues to go up and then we have to close. But we're watching it closely and we're short, I think still of really what we need in order to open.
You know, Ken, I think there's a lot of pressure on the mayor to open up to the next phase. And everything that I've seen is they're not going to go forward so that what you just described doesn't happen. They're just going to stay here, which is hard. But I think going back would be a real problem.
Yeah.
Ken, have you had any feedback from staff about how they're feeling in the first phase?
I think they're surprisingly comfortable. And I have heard that personally, in addition to hearing it from our managers and just in my observation, because I have been out into the branches. I was out in the branches last week, and I think people are feeling fine, honestly. You know, everybody is wearing their masks. We're being careful about washing our hands. We're observing social distancing. And people, when they pick up their books, are being really good about following the process that we've asked them to do. So we haven't really run into anything.
Good.
How many of your staff people are now on site working in the buildings?
Any number I would give you would be a guess, but we are pulling as many of the public service people in the branches and the main as we can. Even the branches that are not open, the staff from those branches are working rotations at the regional and their cluster. So basically, everybody that is, that's a public service staff person is working right now.
Okay.
We have some that are a few that have taken FMLA that have not reported. We still have a lot of staff that are working remotely because it makes sense. And that's something we're going to have to sort out down the road, because honestly, we have a lot of staff that I think can work remotely and work effectively remotely. So understanding what that means for the long term is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess that was one of the questions I was going to ask you today is just, are you drawing any conclusions so far about what normal looks like post-virus, in a vaccine era? I mean, what are you learning from this that you think will carry forward and change the way we do things?
I don't think we're there yet to totally understand that, Keith. I think the one thing we've learned is that the virtual programming is here to stay. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think we're going to need to decide if curbside remains. We've had some discussions. All my other stops in my career, library branches have been built with drive-up windows, and that's not been the trend in this area. And I think it would behoove us to really look at if we continue curbside service even out of this, and or start building branches that have drive-up windows, because that's clearly a popular item. I think those are some of the trends that we can look at. I think we know that our ebook collection needs to grow and grow dramatically. We've added 7,000 ebook titles since this all started, and it's only going to continue to grow. So, you know, the pieces about the community gatherings, I am very sure that once this settles down, people are going to want to gather in community and attend programming and be in the library alive. But I think there will also be an element of people that are never going to feel comfortable to be in public spaces again. So those, I mean, those are all things that I see as immediate trends.
Yeah, interesting. Good, thanks.
Welcome.
This may be more detailed than you can answer, but are the classics of civil rights literature available on ebooks?
Yeah, they are. And it's a good question, Robert. We have book lists up on our website right now directing people to that. Some of those are ebooks. And there's a movement afoot between a number of urban library council libraries, including ourselves, asking Overdrive to make some multiple titles available free for a time period. So yes, very much so.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that?
Ken, if I wanted to borrow a movie, is it technologically possible for me to borrow that from the like an ebook, borrow it from the library, look at it, and then it goes back?
Yep. You can download.
Okay. Is that in the resource list too?
Maybe. I can tell you that for sure, but it's certainly possible for us to do those sorts of things.
I was listening to this NPL review this morning of movies that were helpful, you know, during this period. Ones that are not like The Help, you know, it's just like, and I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
And so maybe that could be added to those could be helpful ones, especially for children, be added to the list.
All right.
Okay.
Budget?
Tonight, council is supposed to knock down, drag out on the budget. Maybe that shouldn't be a good term, but if there was a pretty lengthy article in the paper this morning that confirmed a number of things that I had been hearing. I think ultimately, unless things change dramatically, it's going to come down between Councilperson Mendez's budget, the Finance Committee Chair budget and Finance Chair, and the Mayor's budget. The development that we did not like to see last week was that we received a questionnaire on what would happen if we had a targeted savings, and the amount they gave us was $265,000. I think both the mayor's budget and the councilman's budget have a targeted number. The issue we are continuing to hit with that is that the targeted savings are whittling away at the number of staff we have. You may remember that for the budget 2 years ago, and then this year's budget, we lost 17 positions. The first year of that, they basically froze the positions, and this year they took it off the budget, so they took it off the bottom line. So we lost 17 positions there. We have, counting those positions and the positions that we have frozen, at the request of budgeting this year, we have 46 positions that are unfilled that we could have filled 2 years ago. So that's a huge loss. And in that questionnaire, they asked for the impact of an additional targeted savings, and I indicated that we would need to consider closing locations. So it's becoming it's becoming pretty simple mathematics. We're just running out of bodies in order to provide service. And I'm still of the opinion, and certainly that this is your decision and a discussion, but we know that if we reduce hours based upon what happened during the last recession, and we close Fridays, that the difficulty in retrieving those hours back into the budget is pretty substantial.
Once they take it away, they won't give it back.
I'm sorry, Robert, I couldn't hear you.
I said that's true. Once they give it away, they won't.
Right. That's our concern.
Bernie, can we go to that page in the report that shows personnel, you know, the 17 positions that are going away, all that?
That's financial. Here we go.
Okay.
When
So-
you're looking at that, the green lines are the ones that were frozen 2 years, or they were the ones we couldn't hire because of the targeted savings. And then the note outside there indicates that they were taken off the bottom line of the budget to true up the budget for this year. So those were effectively gone with the start of this year's budget. And the reason we've maintained that list is to give you a sense of where we are overall in losing positions.
Okay.
That should be red instead of green.
Really.
What, and then the, I'm sorry. And then the other positions down there, I'd have to go back to I can't, it's too small on my screen to read that, but those are frozen, is that right?
That's correct.
But they're not lost. If you,
Not yet. One of the things we don't know as this process proceeds, we're under the impression if the two budgets we've discussed, the mayor's or the chairman's, are adopted, that we may have a targeted savings, but these positions will not remain frozen. However, we do not know that for a fact. So we just don't know. So there's a possibility that we'd have to save $265,000 and continue these positions frozen, which would be even more of a burden. But it's kind of like trying to guess on the tea leaves right now. There were a couple of apparently budget amendments that were filed in the last few days, one of which looked like a response to what we're seeing across the country of defunding police and law enforcement. And there was one proposal that added a lot of money to different education and social services. And I had not heard about it, including us, and it had $4 million added to our budget. And I have no idea what they added to our budget.
May I interrupt for 1 second? I'm sorry. But Adriana is in the meeting, but she can't be, though she's just been unmuted. Okay, sorry, keep going.
So anyway, so we don't know what that budget is, although I don't imagine there's much of a chance that budget will pass.
Do you know whose amendment that was?
I saw the name and it wasn't somebody I was familiar with, and I can get that for you, Joyce. It's in the paper this morning.
Okay, I'll look, because I had.
It was really out of the blue for me, and I had no idea that it was coming, but we were in a list of multiple additions.
Because I saw in Mendez's budget that he is putting in money to open the parks, but I didn't see anything for the library, so that was.
No.
Ken, this is Charlie speaking. Earlier you mentioned, if I'm correct here, that you may consider maybe closing a couple of branches or some branches. How many you think may have to close?
I think what we would have to do would be to totally recalibrate how we're staffing. And then we've come up with a couple of scenarios in the past. Probably there are a couple of ways we could approach it. We can do what I would call permanent temporary closings. You pick out some branches and you close them down and you move the remainder of the staff, or you focus your staffing on the remaining open branches. The other thing we've talked about doing that is more of a problem, and I'm not sure what it creates, is the idea of doing rotating enclosures. So rather than totally eliminating service to one part of the community, you close the number of branches in one area and continue to provide service in others. And then at the end of, say, 2 months, you close other branches and reopen the ones that have been closed. And in that way, you're not denying service for a long length of time to people, but you're kind of, you're providing service with the amount of staff that you have. So but we would want to come to you with a pretty good, hard recommendation so that you had a good sense of what it all meant.
I just have a question.
Mhm.
There are some hotspots in terms of the COVID. Have you considered closing, like not opening those libraries and being a little bit more delayed on that? Because it would be sad because it's hotspots in areas where you have a lot of underserved population and that.
Well, and actually, I think you bring up a good suggestion, because that could be another way you look at it. And I've thought about that. I think there's also a question if we do not have a hard freeze and those positions are reopened as the year starts, but we're still not in a position where we need to rehire them, we might be able to make up our targeted savings by just leaving those positions open. And so by leaving the branches closed as the COVID clears up, or we wait for it to clear up, we may be able to make up our savings there.
Well, I think we're mixing two things here. One is budget, and the other, I think Adriana's question is back to, how do we go to phase 2, or how do we open branches regardless of the budget situation?
Right. Well, we will certainly be looking at the hot spots as we consider that. The reason the regionals are identified in our phase 2 as being the place to open is that we're more easily able to social distance with staff in those large facilities and the public.
Yeah.
I know obviously the big hot spot that everybody is concerned at right now is the southeast area.
Right.
And that's the one that we're all keeping our eye on. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, back to the budget part. Back to closings as it relates to budget. I sort of like this idea of it may be more complicated, but of rolling closings. So, I think the problem is, you're going to wind up closing branches that have probably the least amount of activity. That would be the sort of economical thing to do. But also those are branches that are probably serving underserved areas and shouldn't be closed, really. And if you're only closing those branches, it doesn't create the kind of pressure. If you close Green Hills, if you close Bellevue, then council people start to hear about it. The mayor starts to hear about it. I've had said to me by, Black friends, the only people that can do anything about the situation we have today are you white people. And as long as we're all comfortable and we can go to our Green Hills Library and do whatever we want to do, and we're all sympathetic towards Watkins Park or Luby or wherever, but until it starts to impact everybody, then you're not going to get the pressure you need to change things. So
I say amen to that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Keith.
So I don't know. I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it, but I think there's some merit in that. I think I think if we've got to close something because of the budget crisis, the pain needs to be shared across the board.
Amen. Preach.
It's wonderful what you just said. I totally agree in terms of like pushing the limits in terms of not allowing this to only be to underserved population. And also, I don't know what the role of the libraries is going to be when the public school starts, and what is what their how important they're going to be, and the ones that need it most is underserved.
Interestingly about that, Adriana, is that the support the public schools are going to need is going to be virtual. So even in the underserved parts of the city, the library still may be able to do a lot of its work. It's so unknown, but there's that scenario. And while you all have been talking, I was researching, the council person is Jenny Welch from District 16.
That is correct. That is
proposed a totally radically different budget that is, whatever you think about the phrase defund police, which is, I don't think, a great descriptive phrase. It's more like retrain or redirect police funds. And that's what Jenny is proposing. I don't know what'll happen tonight, but that does have $4 million for the library in it.
right.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yeah. I
So,
think,
you know, we don't really know what's going to happen with this virus, but at some point, when people go back to work, programs need to be up and running. If we can make it happen safely, that's one of the crucial things we do.
he's frozen.
Yeah, I would, I hope we never have to go back up from phase one. And I just, it just, at a time when I don't know, Kent's got a whole set of considerations that he's got to take into account, and I understand that. But I almost feel like library workers are somehow in the same category as medical workers and the frontline people, because people really, people need these services. They're sitting at home; they don't have anything to do. I just and all the programming we're doing, I just think it's almost, it gets very close to being an essential service.
I'm nodding my head, if you can see me.
No, I can't see you, but so anyway, I hope that we're able to stay open forever and ever, at least what we're doing right now, and maybe even go further than that, even if there is a spike, if we can ensure the safety of our people. I know, if we go back to some sort of stay at home no matter what kind of thing, I don't know. I guess those people can't come out either. But if people are isolated in their home, they need us.
Well, I didn't have any more on the budget, and Robert was touched on it. I think, we continue to have our frustrations, just that we're always right now it feels like we're always waiting and seeing and being as reactive as we can. And at least with the budget, we should know here in another week or so at a maximum what's going to happen, hopefully after tonight. So.
Can I ask you one more thing about this personnel stuff, Kent?
Sure.
All this stuff about the budget is a little bit sort of Twilight Zone kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got these positions that are in white and orange there, that are frozen but not eliminated. So we could have targeted savings of $265,000, for example.
Right.
But we could also have these positions unfrozen at the same time.
Yes.
So
it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And
You're going to be spending money with the left hand, but
yes,
cutting with the right hand.
yeah, it was just like the budgeting that took place until last year, the previous year. They passed a budget that we thought we had lost, we had stayed even. And then they told us that we had to save the 800,000, which is where you find those 17 positions at the top in the green were the ones we had to sell. Basically, we did a sell freeze on hiring those positions in order to make budget that year. And then those positions were taken off of our budget at the start of this budget year, and what they called truing up the budget, where we basically lost those positions.
Okay. So if you have $265,000 of targeted savings, then some of the positions below the green line then could
Right.
move into green, and the greens go away, and you've got more positions that are subject to targeted savings, which then go away.
Potentially, correct. And we're estimating those are 4 to 5 positions, depending upon what we're looking at there. The cost savings is not just salaries, but it's benefits and a couple of other things. So.
Okay. Very confusing.
Yes, it is. That's why we've got Susan and Angela to keep us straight.
All right. Any more questions about any of the COVID issues, the curbside issues, reopening, budget, any of that stuff?
Ken, I did have one question. The curbside service, has it been across the county or in particular parts of the county?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Has curbside service been concentrated in parts of the county or pretty evenly spread?
It's spread. We're doing it at the regional libraries in Maine. So it's pretty evenly spread throughout the county. I can tell you that Maine, as we expected, has been our slowest location. But the others have been somewhat brisk. My understanding is that it probably stays pretty true to what you see in the monthly cert pattern.
Okay.
And Ken, if things settle down some and the curve goes down, remind us again what's going to happen to phase 2. I understand you don't know when that's going to happen, but
we'd be opening up the regionals for social distancing seating, and we'd also be spreading out the computers. Actually, the computers are already spread out, awaiting hopefully the next phase. So we'd spread out the computer use, and then we'd be in a situation where we're needing to wipe down every computer station after every use, wiping down the tables on a regular basis during the day, all of that stuff that goes along with the public being in your building. And it would not involve live programming at that point.
What do you mean it would not involve a lot?
We wouldn't be putting 20 kids in a story hour room and doing story hours.
Right.
We'd continue the virtual programming.
Got it. Okay.
That's basically the basic change, and we'd really be directing people to the self-checks. But again, knowing that we would need to be wiping off the self-checks every time somebody touched them.
And you would phase 2 would only entail opening the regional branches. It would not entail opening the others.
And as we look at it, and this goes on, we could potentially, alter that and maybe only open a limited number just to see how it was going. But, we could scale it back somewhat just to get a sense. But right now, that is the plan.
Well, I think that's the question. We as board members, when we talk to our friends and neighbors and such, that's the question that we get, what happens next?
Right.
And when does it happen? And when does it happen? We don't know, but at least we need to know what would happen.
I can tell you, I get the question about when we're going to phase 2 almost daily from staff. So.
Yeah.
And I think they're just curious and want to be able to be prepared as much as anything and start thinking about a number of different items. But I think there's also some hesitance and concern with that as well.
Can all of those cleaning supplies that you said we'd have to wipe down computers and all of the hand sanitizer, is Metro government ordering all of those supplies together so that you get a cost reduction?
OEM is supposed to be what we go to, but we have also done some ordering on our own because those supplies have not always flowed as quickly as we would have liked. Okay. So the business office and their staff have been assertive about trying to find any avenue possible. So,
okay.
I can tell you if it rolls out as smoothly for the public as it has within the building, it'll be great. I mean, as I mentioned early on, you walk in Main right now, have your temperature taken, you can clean your hands with hand sanitizer. We aren't sitting in our offices with masks on, but when we're like this, we have our masks on. So
there is I'm trying to find name, Sharon Reynolds. Do you know her, Katie? You know what I'm talking about?
You did.
Reynolds had Devmar Company. You remember?
Yeah.
Her? She and some other women have a company, and it's a collaborative, and they are selling those supplies now, and they really cleaning products. The Belmont Association with her to buy from her. So I'll send that to you. I'll send her information to you.
And I'll pass it on to Susan.
Mm-hmm. You might remember her. She's one of the top real estate agents in the city. Yeah.
Yeah. But, just to kind of give you like an idea of some of the things you don't think of, the other thing we've been looking at is retrofitting the public service desk with shields.
Yeah.
But when you walk into the branches, you're going to see shields at the service desk, like you do in the grocery store and other places.
Yeah, it's good.
We're keeping up with exactly how much money we're spending.
Yeah.
On COVID supplies.
Right, and some of it will be submitted for CARES reimbursable type thing as well.
Good question.
All right. Any other questions, thoughts? We don't have any action items at this time, and it's a somewhat abbreviated meeting because of all that's going on. But if there's nothing else, and I'll pause to see if there is, we can stand adjourned. Kent, thank you for your work, and please pass along to the staff.
I will.
We appreciate what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I will pass it on, and I know a number of the administrative staff are on the call listening today. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Heroes, and we appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
We stand adjourned. Thank all.